Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto shows his Rinnegan during the Chunin Exam, part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. 5-element seal. Pain. That's all Naruto felt as he fell unconscious. They had just dealt with a hidden rain ninja when a gust of wind separated them. After dealing with a massive snake, he found his teammates cowering from the killing intent of a hidden grass ninja. Now Naruto wasn't stupid, no matter how much one would say otherwise. He knew the grass nin was just toying with him. He stopped the ninja from doing some weird thing that extended his neck. That's when everything went downhill. Rather than stay and help him, his teammates left him while he was fighting. The grass ninja, who was Orochimaru in disguise, watched as Naruto fell to the forest floor. The boy had held his own for several minutes against him, no small feat for a genin, and the child had caught him off guard several times. He had always had an eye for talent, and Naruto's unpredictability and usage of shadow clones showed him that the boy was definitely talented. Writing a message on a scroll, he left to find the boy's teammates. After all, he had an Uchiha to mark. If he had stayed longer he would have noticed Naruto's hair changing color. In Naruto's mindscape, Naruto woke up and realized immediately that he was not in the forest. Great. First my team abandons me, and now I'm unconscious in a forest full of flesh-eating plants. Naruto grumbled as he walked down the halls of his mindscape. As he turned a corner he paled. There was a gate clearly designed to lock something away. The only problem was, the bars were slowly disappearing. Seems you've realized the problem. A voice spoke from within the cage. Kyuubi, Naruto said, worried. What's happening? The fox looked at Naruto. To understand what is going on, you must first understand my origins. Do not interrupt me once I start. Naruto eyed the fox warily, but nodded. The fox started to glow a bright red and shrink. After a minute, the glow died down and Naruto froze. Before him was no longer a demon fox, but a man. He was 5'10" with spiky crimson hair that stopped at his lower back. His eyes were a dark purple. He wore a black form-fitting, long-sleeved shirt and black pants with red stripes on the sides. White cloth was wrapped around his right leg in a spiral pattern. He had an odd sword strapped to his side. The blade was 3 feet long and had an odd circular shape at the base that bent inwards at the hilt. It had a glowing orange streak that outlined the edge. What had caused Naruto to freeze was the 3 whisker-like markings on his face. Markings unique to himself. No way. Naruto stuttered. Yes kid, I am you. More specifically, half of you. Kyuubi said. How? Naruto asked with wide eyes. When you were born, your chakra was so strong, your subconscious split it in two. You retained your yang or dark chakra, while your yin or light chakra became me. However, being just chakra without a mind, I ended up rampaging in the village. Our father, Minato Namikaze, realized this and sealed me inside your mindscape. The connection to your subconscious gave me a consciousness of my own. The seal was designed to eventually merge us back together at the age of 16. That grass ninjas damaged the seal, resulting in us merging now. Kyuubi explained. So in summary, you and I are halves of each other and merging because our dad didn't take a well-known sealing into account. Yep, what's going to change about me? You will be physically identical to me. Mentally, you will be colder, less forgiving, less naive, more brutal in combat, and harsher in your opinion of others. Great. I'm going to be the exact opposite of myself. Well, let's go find my teammates. They need an ass kicking, big time. As the cage finally vanished, Naruto and Kyuubi started glowing. Back in the forest of death, Naruto found himself sitting on a tree branch. He stood up and looked himself over. He was indeed identical to his other half in appearance. He even had the sword. Noticing the scroll laying next to him, he checked it for traps. Finding none, he opened it. Naruto Uzumaki, my name is Orochimaru. I was impressed you managed to last as long as you did. I look forward to seeing how you grow. Orochimaru, realizing that Orochimaru did not stick around to notice the changes, he sped off to find his team. It was a rather disturbing sight that Naruto came across when he found his team. Sakura was a mess, Team 10 was still stuck, Lee was unconscious, and Sasuke was beating the crap out of the sound team from the first exam, well covered in black flame-like markings. What a mess. Naruto sighed. While he had no problem with Sasuke beating the sound team, he knew it was only a matter of time before Sasuke turned to the others. Deciding to end the fight before others got hurt, he jumped down from the tree he was in. Sasuke, that's enough. He shouted. Naruto doesn't get in my way. Sasuke said. Everyone was shocked by Naruto's changes and the harsh tone when he shouted. They were even more shocked at Naruto's response. One moment Sasuke is holding the spiky-haired sound genin by the throat and the next he is on his knees. I said that's enough. Naruto spoke. The cold, sharp edge to his tone made everyone flinch. Sasuke threw a right hook at his face. Now, if it was the same Naruto as before, it might have landed. But Naruto was stronger. When he merged with his other half, he trained in his mindscape as he could control the flow of time there. Catching Sasuke's punch, Naruto pulled him forward, landing a harsh kick to his gut, knocking him back several feet. As Sasuke flipped to his feet, Naruto went through some hand signs and called out, "Vapor style." Solid fog. From his mouth an acid-like mist headed toward Sasuke. Activating his Sharingan, he jumped into the trees. The acidic mist began to eat away at trees and plants it touched. Naruto appeared behind Sasuke, striking him on the back of his neck. Sasuke fell to the ground unconscious. Naruto made a clone to carry Sakura while he picked up Sasuke. He turned to Team 10 and spoke, "I suggest you get to the tower as soon as possible." Team 10 just nodded as Naruto left. 4 days later at the tower, after Naruto had opened the scrolls he had gotten from a hidden stone ninja, he simply relaxed for the remaining time. Now he was in the main room of the tower with the other teams. The teams that passed were the Hidden Sound Team, Kabuto's team, Team 10, Team 8, the Hidden Sand Team, Team 9, and Team 7. This meant with 21 genin, there would be preliminary rounds. He tuned out the third Hokage's speech until a sickly-looking boy jumped down. The fights up to Naruto's are canon. If you want to see them, watch the actual anime. That was pathetic. Naruto drew. Sakura and Ino's fight had been more like a schoolyard brawl than a shinobi battle. Kakashi looked over at him, "Be nice." She did her best. Naruto stared blankly at him, making him nervous. He had never seen the boy stare at him with so little emotion. Finally Naruto spoke, "If that was her best, then she is unfit to be a shinobi." That was embarrassing. The others had to agree. Sakura showed very little skill and was clearly a fangirl. After 6 months, Kakashi should have corrected that. So why was she so bad? Though if you had bothered to actually train her instead of favoring the Uchiha aunt, maybe she wouldn't be so bad. Naruto admonished. That explains it. I did train her. Name one thing you taught her other than tree climbing. Why other than that? Because it was during a C rank turned A rank. You had no choice back then. Now name one. Now name one thing you taught me. Now here is what you taught Sasuke, and before you interrupt, I remember everything Sasuke knew during the academy. So by comparing that Sasuke to the current one, I can list off what you taught him. It is, as such. The Dragon Flame Jutsu, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, Fixing Holes in his Taijutsu, Jinjutsu. Hell Viewing, Jinjutsu. Shackling Stakes, How to Use Storage Scrolls, and currently he is learning Chidori. Am I wrong on this? The other and Genin stared at Kakashi, wondering what possessed him to enter his team into the exams after showing such favoritism. Kakashi could only look away in shame. Just then the board stopped on 2 names. Naruto Uzumaki vs Kiba Inuzuka. Alright Akamaru. We got a free pass. Kiba shouted. Akamaru looked over at Naruto nervously. He had sensed the teen's power. Kiba didn't stand a chance. Naruto grinned viciously. He would enjoy beating the mutt for how he treated him back at the academy. Will Naruto Uzumaki and Kiba Inuzuka please come down? The Proctor Heicheko said. They both entered the arena and stood across from each other. This'll be over quickly. Kiba declared. 3 hits, what? You will lose in 3 hits. Kiba growled. He sure as hell won't lose. Especially in 3 hits. Not to the dead last. Heiichi brought his hand down and jumped away, begin. Kiba rushed forward, intent on ending it quickly. At the last second, Naruto grabbed Kiba's arm, twisting it sharply. A sickening crack heralded Kiba's broken arm. He stumbled backward, only to be hit twice in the chest, knocking him into the far wall. As he got up, Neji Hyuga, a member of Team 9, noticed something. Activating his bloodline, the Byakugan, he checked Kiba's chakra network. His chakra points are blocked. He shouted. Everyone looked at him with wide eyes. Neji's teammate Tenten spoke first. How? Surprisingly, it was Naruto who answered. The chakra points are fixed locations on the human body. By comparing my own physical structure to Kiba's, I can locate those points without a Byakugan. Explained Naruto. Everyone gaped. They didn't think it was possible to strike chakra points without the Byakugan. Naruto walked up to Kiba. He looked down at his opponent with a bored look. I'm disappointed. And with that, he struck the back of Kiba's neck, knocking him out. Silence. Absolute silence. Even Sakura was rendered speechless. The dead last had defeated Kiba in 3 hits. What shocked those who knew Naruto the most was his cold harsh tone when he spoke to Inuzuka. Everyone stared wide-eyed as Kiba was looked over by the medics. Sasuke was seething with his Sharingan active. Naruto was careful not to use any, knowing he could copy them. He began to go through hand signs. As Naruto turned to leave the arena, everyone sensed a buildup of chakra. Turning their heads toward Sasuke, they saw him land on the tiger seal. Before they could stop him, he called out, fire style. Fireball jutsu. A large fireball headed towards Naruto. As everyone shouted to get out of the way, Naruto kept walking. Just as the fireball was about to hit him, Naruto vanished. He reappeared behind Sasuke and kicked him into the arena. He jumped back into the arena and glared at the Uchiha. "Sasuke," Naruto growled, "I don't know what your problem is, but this needs to stop. First, you and Pinky abandoned me at the hands of Orochimaru, and now you attack me for no reason. What the hell is wrong with you?" Sasuke stood up smirking, "It's not like I'll get punished for it. I can do what I want. The council practically worships me." The Hokage frowned. The council has no power over the exams, and Sasuke is clearly unstable. The attack on his teammate is proof enough, so why wasn't he pulled out of the exams? He would have to speak to Kakashi later. For now, it seems Naruto and Sasuke need to work this out. He stood up and addressed the group. "It seems we will need to settle this here. Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki will fight." Paid landed between the boys and raised his hand. "If you're both ready, then begin." He spoke, jumping backwards. Sasuke stood there smirking. Naruto, on the other hand, reached out with his right hand as markings appeared on his palm. As the burst of smoke that followed vanished, he was now holding the sword that Izyan half possessed. Everybody could feel the power coming off the blade. He strapped the sheath to his back and pulled out the sword. Sasuke was grinding his teeth. The dead last had a weapon that clearly held a lot of power. "Where did you get that?" he questioned. Naruto just ignored him, instead choosing to bite his thumb. Wiping his blood on the blade, it began to glow. The words he spoke next would haunt the Uchiha forever, "Cower fool, before the power of the fox rods." The glow became blindingly bright. When the glow died down, he was holding a different sword. It looked like 3 thin, green, and yellow rods stuck side by side, with the middle one being longer than the others. The V-shaped hilt had 3 rods with the bottom one in a spiral shape. The blade itself has 4 liter-shaped protrusions on each side, pointing upwards toward the tip. Sasuke shivered, feeling the malevolent aura from the weapon. It felt like the Shinigami was breathing down his neck. Pushing back his fear, he got out a kunai and took a fighting stance. In less than a second, Naruto closed a distance. With no time to react, Sasuke took a horizontal slash to the chest. He knew immediately that something was wrong. He was uninjured, but his chakra reserves dropped like a brick. His eyes widened. "I see you figured it out. The Fox Rod special ability doesn't cause physical injury, instead attacking the opponent's chakra network. It pushes the chakra out of the body, eventually leaving you with nothing. The severity of the physical injury equivalent determines the amount of chakra lost. Once the body completely runs out of chakra, they die from the final strike," Naruto explained. Quickly turning around, Sasuke lashed out with his kunai. Grabbing Sasuke's hand, Naruto drove the fox rods into his chest. Slashing upwards, Sasuke fell to his knees, feeling all but the bare minimum of his chakra left him. Before he passed out, he heard Sakura screeching. "Damned fangirls," he thought. As Sasuke was taken to the infirmary, the board cycled through names. Everyone tensed, wondering who would fight next. The board stopped on 2 names. Gaara vs Rock Lee. Seeing the names, Naruto went over to Lee and Guy. He knew Taijutsu alone would likely not be enough. He had to warn them. Lee, don't be afraid to admit defeat, Naruto said. Guy looked confused, so Lee decided to voice the question, "Why would I admit defeat? Gaara is a demon host." Naruto explained, as Guy's eyes widened. Judging by the gourd on his back, he held the sand spirit, Shukaku. The spirit grants its host the ability to control sand. It will come to his defense automatically when you attack. Furthermore, he can wear the sand like armor, making it even more difficult to injure him. While Taijutsu could penetrate it with enough force, it might not be enough in the long run. Guy's eyes hardened, having so little faith in your comrades. It has nothing to do with faith. Naruto continued, the host is protected in a way that brute force just isn't enough. So why do you look so worried? Lee asked, if he wins I could always challenge him outside the exams. The thing about Shukaku is that the Raccoon's hosts have a record of insanity. Naruto explained with a grimace, a host of Shukaku suffers from severe insomnia. Add in the sand spirit screaming in his head 24/7 and anyone would lose it. If Gaara is truly insane, he won't hesitate to kill or maim Lee. If that happens, Lee's career would be over. Do you really want to risk it if Taijutsu proves to be inadequate? Lee watched as Naruto went back to his teammates, thinking over his warning. Was he really willing to risk such an injury just to win a match? Although his ninja way includes never giving up, even he knows that some opponents have abilities that could indeed be too much for just Taijutsu. Lee made his decision. He would fight, but if he is forced to use his main trump card and it fails, then he would admit defeat. It wasn't worth losing his career over one match. Looking over at Guy, he saw that the man had come to the same conclusion. Jumping down to the arena floor, Lee started his opponent. The gourd likely carried a small amount of sand. Quickly raising his hand, he caught something that Gaara threw. Lee noticed it was the cork from his gourd and sand was pouring out. He looked Gaara in the eye, why are you in such a hurry? Pate raised his hand. If you're both ready, he said, then begin. Lee dashed forward, closing the distance within seconds. Jumping up he called out, Leaf Hurricane. Spinning in the air, he lashed out with his right foot, only to find resistance in the form of a wall of sand. Jumping back he studied his opponent. So, that's the sand shield Naruto warned me about. Lee thought, he was right. It will not be easy to get through. Dashing forward once more, he struck out with a straight punch. Once more, the sand blocked the attack. Sending out several punches and kicks, each blocked by the sand, Lee found that the shield was indeed too strong for ordinary taijutsu. He jumped onto the top of the statue in the back of the arena. Looking at his sensei, he asked a silent question. When Guy nodded, Lee smiled. Reaching down, he took off his leg warmers, revealing several metal bars strapped to his legs. Kakashi looked over at Guy. Leg weights. Basic training equipment. He mused. Then Kuro stared at Lee, totally lame. Naruto tilted his head towards him with a feral grin, making the puppeteer nervous, and several people back away slowly. Lee's stronger than he looks. You have no idea. He had seen the seals on the bars, recognizing them as weight seals. Level 6 weight seals to be exact. That was roughly 50 pounds for each bar, and there were 5 on each of Lee's legs. Lee stood up. Ah, now I can move freely. He exclaimed. Damari looked amused. Do you think you'll be able to get past Gaara's defense by dropping a couple of pounds of weight? Crash what the? Kakashi sweat dropped. Guy, you are too much. The entire arena shook from the impact of the weights hitting the floor. Gaara started sweating. As insane as he was, the amount of weight Lee removed still raised several red flags with him. The boy was fast before, but now, for the first time Gaara was actually wondering if he could make it out of the fight unscathed. Here I come. Lee shouted. Jumping from his perch, Lee seemed to vanish. Appearing behind Gaara, he lashed out, his punch going straight through the sand shield, missing Gaara's head by inches. So close. Sakura shouted in awe. So fast. Kakashi thought. He was barely able to follow Lee's movements without his Sharingan. Gaara looked around frantically, trying to find his opponent. He had never seen anyone move so fast. Lee appeared above him spinning like a saw blade. Slamming his right foot downward, it smashed into Gaara's forehead, the force behind the kick actually causing the demon host to bend over. When Gaara looked up, he had a large gash down the left side of his head. Damari was shocked. I don't believe it. Gaara's been hurt. Impossible. Kankuro thought. He couldn't comprehend the fact that for the first time since birth, Gaara had been injured. Naruto grinned. That had to hurt. Gaara focused his chakra. Channeling it into his sand, he coated himself with it. Lee noticed it. Realizing he would need to use his main trump card, he began unwrapping the bandages on his arms. When he finished, he crossed his arms in front of him, building up a large amount of chakra. Sakura was confused. She looked at Kakashi for answers, only to see an angry expression on his face. Looking over at Guy, she asked him what Lee was doing. Lee is going to use his trump card. Guy answered. Kakashi's head turned towards him so fast it practically snapped. No Guy, you didn't. Yes Kakashi. I did. You mean that boy, that genin, is able to open the 8 inner gates and unleash the primary and hidden lotus techniques? Sakura became frustrated. She wanted a straight answer, not more questions. Alright, what are these 8 inner gates? And the lotus techniques? Kakashi raised his headband, revealing his Sharingan eye. Analyzing Lee's chakra network, he began to explain, there are gates along the chakra network, located at the points where the chakra is most heavily concentrated. Starting at the head, they are the gate of opening, the gate of rest, the gate of life, of pain, of closing, of joy, of shock, and the gate of death. Opening each gate grants a large boost in power, speed, and chakra, along with the ability to use several taijutsu techniques at specific gates. But forcibly increasing the speed of one's chakra flow could cause serious damage to the body. Sakura shouted. Exactly. Kakashi continued, by opening all 8 gates, one could achieve power beyond even the 5 cage, but it's only temporary. The user will inevitably die. Sakura was horrified. Kakashi scowled at Guy. I don't know what this boy means to you Guy, but opening the 8 inner gates is far too dangerous a technique for a genin. Guy glared at his rival. That's rich coming from you. From your conversation with Naruto, you're teaching Sasuke, a genin, the Chidori. That is classified as an assassination technique. You are teaching a well-known flight risk technique that's only purpose is to kill. Yet you have the gall to lecture me about what not to teach a genin. Kakashi flinched knowing that Guy was right. He didn't have the right to lecture Guy on this, as he was no better. Back in the arena, Lee had opened the first gate and was running in a circle around Gaara. Confused at the action, Gaara voiced his question, what are you waiting for? Alright, you asked for it. Ha! Lee said, as he kicked Gaara into the air. Appearing directly behind Gaara, Lee began to wrap him in the loose bandages. Unable to move his arms, Gaara wasn't able to escape the wrappings. Grabbing onto his opponent, Lee began spinning head first toward the ground, primary lotus. The shockwave knocked the other genin off their feet. When the smoke cleared, Gaara was revealed to have withstood the technique, a bloodthirsty grin on his face. Remembering Naruto's warning, Lee raised his hand. Rock Lee, forfeit the match. He jumped back into the arena, the winner was Gaara. Lee began to walk back to the balcony when a wave of sand flew at him. Gaara was furious. No one had ever done so much damage to him. He would not let the boy live. Sending a wave of sand at Lee, he cackled in glee. His laughing was cut short by a sharp pain in his stomach. Looking down, he saw odd markings spreading over his body. Before he passed out, he heard a voice say, "You will regret your actions one day, Gaara. Count on it." After the incident with Gaara, the matches were rather uneventful. Tenten faced the eldest of the Sand siblings Temari, with Tenten losing badly. Kankuro faced a sound shinobi named Misumi, who had an odd ability to voluntarily dislocate his joints. Neji Hyuga found himself at the end of Naruto's blade when he tried to kill Hinata. Now, each participant that progressed to the finals was standing in the arena. Height walked up with a box. "Each of you will draw a number from the box to determine your opponent," he explained. Gaara drew his number, 2. Next was Shino, 3. 4. Temari stated. Neji drew next, 7. When Naruto drew his number, he gave Neji a feral grin, 8. Sasuke glared at his teammate as he got his number, 1. Kankuro was next, 6. "What a drag." 5. Shikamaru said, yawning. So, Height started. The first match was Sasuke Uchiha vs Gaara. The second match is Temari vs Shino Aburam. The third match is Kankuro vs Shikamaru Nara, and the final match is Neji Hyuga vs Naruto Uzumaki. You will all have 1 month to prepare for the finals. After a short speech from the third Hokage, everyone left the tower. As Naruto left, he contemplated on what he was going to train in during the month. He could continue his training from his mindscape, but that could be done with shadow clones. He could just relax, but he has never been one to sit still for very long. He'd figure it out later. But the third Hokage. As Naruto was contemplating his training, the Hokage was contemplating Naruto's changes. He knew about the true nature of the 9 tails. It was the last thing Minato confided in him before confronting Naruto's other half. He knew that the seal would not have broken so easily. This left the only explanation being that Orochimaru did something that damaged the seal enough to prematurely merge the 2 halves of Naruto. He would have to tread lightly. He had seen the changes in Naruto's personality. If he wasn't careful, he could lose Naruto to the boy's own anger at the village. He was left with instructions from Minato to give Naruto his inheritance when his 2 halves merged, though he likely didn't take it happening so soon into account. Nevertheless, it was his successor's last order as Hokage, and he would follow it. "Pat," he called. An Anbu appeared at his side. "Yes, Lord Third. Bring me Naruto," he commanded. 2 hours later, Naruto sat against a tree in Training Ground 7, thinking about what he found out just a few minutes ago. His parents' letters stated that a masked Uchiha had shown up on the night of Naruto's birth and attempted to take him hostage. There was just one problem. Their coffins were empty. To make matters worse, he used the Shinigami death mask, and the death god had confirmed his suspicions. Even worse, he had a twin sister. His parents had abandoned him for his sibling, and the Hokage was furious when Naruto told him of his findings. Never had he seen his grandfather figure so angry. The man had searched his office for any other proof. What he found was sickening to them both. They had found a hidden marriage contract behind the portrait of the first Hokage. If Naruto signed it, he would have been wed to his little sister. He knew nothing about his sibling, and they expected him to just agree to it. He hated incest. The concept alone made him want to punch its creator to death. Did they think he was an idiot? They abandoned him and then expect him to welcome them back with open arms? No. He would make their lives a living hell. Worse than what he had been through. Setting aside his thoughts of the many ways he intended to torture them, he decided to go home. He was just about to leave when he had to dodge a hail of kunai. Looking over at the culprit, he saw several people dressed in outfits similar to those that Anbu Black Ops wear. However, there was one major difference. The masks were blank with the exception of the kanji for root. Naruto realized that these were dogs of Danzo and his root organization. The third Hokage had warned him that Danzo would approach him at some point. Realizing that diplomacy was pointless with him, he drew the fox rods and took a stance. One of the root Anbu charged with his blade already mid-swing. Ducking under the diagonal slash, he lashed out, intent on skewering his assailant. Remembering Danzo's warning about the fox rod special ability, the root shinobi jumped back, only to be assaulted by a rain of paper bombs. Seeing the enemy back off, Naruto jumped up and threw several paper bombs calling out, "Shuriken Shadow Clone." The paper bombs multiplied into a literal hailstorm of destruction. The explosion caught the root shinobi along with several others. The remaining root Anbu started going through hand signs. Sensing the chakra build-up, Naruto went through hand signs of his own. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Vapor style. Solid fog. The fireballs entered the acidic mist, causing a violent reaction. This resulted in a massive explosion. Realizing that the explosion would draw attention, the rude Anbu fled under the cover of the smoke. When the smoke cleared, Naruto saw that they had escaped. The explosion had incinerated the bodies of the root shinobi he had killed. At that moment, the third Hokage had arrived with several Anbu. Naruto, what happened? Nothing. I just got carried away while venting my frustrations. The third sighed. He could understand Naruto's anger. Hell, he himself had been beyond angry when he found out. He couldn't blame him for getting carried away. After all, Naruto had always wanted a family, and to find out he had essentially been abandoned was undoubtedly painful. He needed to help Naruto or he could go on a revenge kick. The sad part was, he might actually join Naruto in it. He gave the boy a hug and told him that if the boy needed to talk, his doors were always open to him. Thanking the Hokage, he set out for his apartment. As he walked home, he thought about what he had to do about Danzo. That attack could not go unpunished. Danzo had been a thorn in the old man's side for too long, and attacking him was the last straw for Naruto. He needed to deal with Danzo carefully or he could get in trouble. Suddenly, he got an idea and grinned viciously. This caused many villagers who saw it to pale and wonder what poor sap had earned the boy's ire. 3 days later in Danzo's hideout, it was official. Danzo was too overconfident for his own good. The security was so horrible that Naruto easily avoided the attention of the guards, taking them out and replacing them with transformed shadow clones. Naruto made his way through the base to Danzo's room. The man had become delusional and senile thanks to a special mixture he created. It caused the nerves responsible for the electrical signals in the brain to go haywire. This results in hallucinations, misjudgment of time, altered thought processes, and loss of proper visual recognition. Entering Danzo's study, he found the man waiting patiently for him. I should have known you would eventually find proof that I had not disbanded Root. You are a prodigy after all, Minato. Danzo stated, clearly affected heavily by the poison. Then you should know what I intend to do. Naruto said, playing along with the man's delusions. Danzo stood up, indeed I do. But I do not intend to go willingly. So be it. You had your chance. I'll end this quickly. Throwing a flying Raijin kunai he teleported behind Danzo, having learned just for this fight. Recognizing the technique, Danzo jumped back, knowing the enclosed space would make utilizing it difficult. Going through some hand signs, he sucked in some air. Blind style. Drilling air bullet. They rocketed toward Naruto. Teleporting to a marking he had placed on the door, Naruto narrowly avoided the attack as it destroyed the wall behind him. Forming a Rinnegan, he lunged at Danzo, sending him through the back wall. Naruto jumped after him, only to find Danzo completely unharmed. Narrowing his eyes, he dashed toward Danzo again, engaging the old cripple in a taijutsu fight. Sweeping the man's legs out from under him, Naruto jumped above him, forming a Rinnegan as he did. The moment Danzo hit the ground, Naruto twisted and slammed into the man's back. The spiral nature tore off Danzo's right arm. As Danzo lay dying, he analyzed the battle. You figured it out. He said. Naruto stared down at him, yes I did. You had several Sharingan eyes implanted in that arm. The only reason you would need multiple eyes would be to use a certain ability of the Taijutsu. The technique, Izanagi, has a cost. It rewrites one's death in exchange for the light in one Sharingan eye. Having multiple eyes allowed you to use it multiple times. However, you had to use the implanted eye in your right eye socket first, as it was the only one directly connected to your chakra network. By forcing you to use Izanagi once and then removing the arm, I prevented you from activating the technique again. Looking Naruto in the eye he said, I stand by what I said that day. Your will of fire is indeed more powerful than my own. My only regret is that I failed to see that my own was weakening. Guide this village. That is my only mission request. With that, the darkness of Shinobi drew his last breath. Naruto knelt down. Closing Danzo's eyes, he swore to honor the man's dying request. He stood up. Mission accepted, Elder Danzo. A month had passed since the second round. All the finalists were in the stadium. All except one of course. Damn it Sasuke. You had better show up soon. Naruto mumbled. He had managed to avoid his team by training in his family estate, not that he considered them family. Sasuke had been very persistent in finding out what Naruto was training in. Bastard probably thought he could copy his skills, and now the so-called last Uchiha was late to the exams. Idiot. Up in the cage box, the third Hokage was thinking similar thoughts. His musing on Sasuke's lack of punctuality was halted by the arrival of the Kazekage, Rasa. Welcome Lord Kazekage. I hope your trip here was alright. The third Hokage greeted. It was fine, but thank you for the concern. It is good to know you haven't changed Hiruzen. The fourth Kazekage responded, however, I do wonder if you have chosen the next Hokage. After all, you may have a few more years left, but everyone has their limits. It's always good to be prepared. True enough. Though I have not decided yet, I do have a candidate for the position. Nodding, the Rasa looked down at the arena. He noticed that Uchiha wasn't among the finalists. You seem to be missing a genin, he said. Sasuke Uchiha's Jounin sensei, Kakashi Haddock, seems to have rubbed off on him. The Hokage sighed. The Kazekage just nodded. Kakashi Haddock was notorious for being late. One of his students picking up that quirk was bound to happen eventually. After a short speech, the genin headed up into the contestants' box while Gaara waited for his opponent. He was getting increasingly annoyed by the Uchiha's disrespect. Was the boy honestly so arrogant that he believed he would be waited on? Even a total moron knew that the feudal lords would not let this level of disrespect go unpunished. They had their own duties to attend to. After 15 minutes, the Hokage was fed up with Sasuke's lateness. Signaling the proctor, Genma Shiranui, told him to disqualify Sasuke. The Kazekage looked over at the Hokage, perhaps we should just push back the Uchiha's match. A great deal of people did travel here just to see it. The Hokage narrowed his eyes. If they did, then they have no right to be here. He explained, for a client to come to the exams just for a single genin means that they would show the boy favoritism on missions. This could cause the one in charge of the mission to abort it. The reason being that it would demoralize the other members of the team. They would think the client doesn't trust them and, as such, would become angry with them. In the event of a fight, this could ultimately result in the genin leaving Sasuke and the client behind, putting self-preservation above a child's arrogance. The Kazekage inwardly cursed. With that kind of reasoning, the feudal lords would side with the Hokage on the matter. Deciding to drop it, he turned back to the arena to watch the next fight. Back in the arena, well Uchiha, you had your chance. Genma thought with a scowl. The runt's arrogance will get him killed one day. Turning to the crowd he announced Sasuke's disqualification. Naturally, this caused a lot of Uchiha supporters to voice their displeasure. Genma called out the next match. Will Shino Aburam and Tamari please come down to the field? He shouted. Shino used the body flicker to appear in the arena. He had come across Naruto practicing it during the month-long interval. Naruto had told him of Shisui Uchiha. His use earned him the nickname Shisui the Teleporter. He drove his opponents mad as they tried to hit him. Realizing that it could help cover his lack of taijutsu skill, Shino had asked if Naruto could teach him it. He found himself to be a natural at it. As Tamari glided down to the arena, she looked at Shino warily. She had heard of the Aburam clan and their parasitic insects. Seeing them firsthand in the preliminaries made her wary enough, but the boy just used the body flicker with ease. Taijutsu may not be their strong point, but if he could use that well enough, she could still have trouble in close combat. Genma raised his hand. If you are both ready, he starts getting nods from both, then begin. Tamari didn't waste any time. Unfolding her fan, she swung it quickly. Wind side jutsu. She shouted as a blast of wind shot toward Shino. Jumping back, he went through some hand signs. As the wind hit, he substituted with a log. Finishing his hand signs, he threw a few shuriken at Tamari. Shuriken shadow clone. The shuriken suddenly multiplied. Recognizing the tags attached to them, Tamari shielded herself with her fan. The resulting explosion knocked her back several feet, her fan completely useless with all the holes and burned on it. Looks like I'll have to fight up close. You're not half bad, she said. Engaging Shino in taijutsu, she quickly found that she had been right in her assumption of his usage of the body flicker. Soon enough, she began to get frustrated. This cost her, as in her anger, she overextended a punch. Shino grabbed her arm and pulled, sending her off balance. Sweeping her legs out from under her, Shino jumped back to get some breathing room. Up in the stands, the other genin watched in amazement. Some of the older shinobi noted that Shino's use of the body flicker was similar to Shisui the Teleporter. Looks like we have a candidate already. One of the judges stated. True. He showed proper tactics in dealing with the Sand Kunoichi's wind. On top of that, he uses the body flicker to dodge the girl's attacks while he gets in some hits of his own, negating the typical Aburam weakness of taijutsu. Said another. Back in the arena, Tamari was getting more and more frustrated. She couldn't hit this guy. Worse yet, she was getting hit constantly. The blows weren't that strong, but the sheer number of them would eventually add up. Her thoughts were interrupted when her legs gave out. She looked at them and saw insects crawling all over them. But when? She asked. It was during the taijutsu fight. I placed a couple of my insects on you with each hit. He explained, that's why the blows weren't very strong. While the bugs drained your chakra, your increasing frustration prevented you from noticing the drain. This allowed me to place more of my insects as you got angrier. Eventually, you began to run low on chakra and now you're out of it. He placed a kunai at Tamari's throat, surrender. Checking her chakra levels, she saw he was indeed right. She was out of chakra and too exhausted to continue with taijutsu. Looking over at the proctor, she raised her hand. "Proctor, I forfeit," she said. Genma turned to the crowd as Shino helped her up. "The winner is Shino Aburam." The crowd cheered for the exciting match. When the crowd calmed down, Genma called the next match. "Will Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki please come down to the field?" he shouted. Neji walked down to the arena with a smirk, certain of his victory. Unfortunately, he failed to notice a seal on the back of his neck begin to glow. Shikamaru did not. Naruto gave his typical feral grin. Neji had no idea of the level of humiliation he was about to undergo. He jumped over the railing, landing on all fours. Standing up, he walked over and stood across from his opponent. Neji still had that smirk on his face. "You got something you want to say?" he asked as Genma raised his hand. "Only one thing." Naruto started as his grin grew more and more vicious by the second. "Don't blink." The proctor lowered his hand. "Begin." Neji's world exploded into pain. He couldn't even comprehend what was happening. 1 second, his opponent is in front of him with that infuriating grin, and the next, he is flying head first into the far wall. All he saw was a flash of yellow. He saw another flash just before he was harshly kicked in the chest, knocking the wind out of him. Even Guy-sensei didn't kick that hard. It felt like his insides were liquefied. Up in the stands, the genin had their jaws on the ground. Sakura decided to ask the unspoken question, "What is that?" Asuma and the others were speechless. The dead last was using one of the second Hokage's most powerful weapons. That was also used by the fourth. Guy was the one to answer the question. "That was the Flying Raijin." "What's Flying Raijin?" Ino asked. Sakura started choking when she heard the name. She looked at Ino incredulously. The Flying Raijin was created by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. She began, through the use of seals, he was able to teleport to anything marked with the sealing formula. The fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, used the Flying Raijin as well. It was what gave him the nickname, the Yellow Flash of the Leaf. It's a SS rank sealing jutsu that is of the space-time category. The fourth utilized kunai with the sealing formula written on them to act as mobile beacons, allowing him to teleport multiple times in rapid succession. He took out over 1,000 hidden stone shinobi during the Third Great Ninja War with a. The survivors said all they saw was a flash of yellow before they began to drop like flies. Ino looked at Asuma for confirmation. Getting a nod, she looked back at the field in awe. Tenten remembered something Sakura said and decided to voice her question. "Hold on. I don't see any kunai, so where is the seal?" she asked. Everyone started looking at the field trying to find the seal. Getting an idea, Sakura turned to Hinata. "Hinata, can you look at Neji with your Byakugan?" she requested. Hinata was confused. Kurenai's eyes widened as she caught on to Sakura's theory. She looked at Hinata. "I think I got it." "Go ahead, Hinata." Reluctantly, Hinata activated her Byakugan. Looking over Neji's body, she noticed something odd. A part of Neji's chakra was being diverted to his neck. Following the flow, she eventually found her answer. "There is some sort of mark on the back of his neck," she exclaimed. Back in the arena, Neji had heard his cousin's comment. "What did you do to me?" he demanded. "I placed my Flying Raijin marking on the back of your neck. Right on the Byakugan's blind spot," he explained. Neji and the other Hyugas in the stadium were shocked. How did he know about the blind spot? "When you fought Hinata in the prelims, I noticed that one of her kunai escaped the vision of your Byakugan." He continued, "After analyzing that moment, I realized that the Byakugan had a blind spot. During the month-long interval, when you bumped into me in the hot springs, I had placed a seal on you. You never noticed me do it because you were so focused on degrading Hinata. My strike to the back of your neck was the moment the seal was placed. Because you trained in the Byakugan alone, the seal went unnoticed by others, and being in your blind spot, you didn't notice either." Neji was stunned. Even the crowd was silent. The dead last had virtually guaranteed his victory days before the finals even began. He had done nothing wrong, as there were no rules against placing seals on your opponent before the matches. The genin were told to prepare. There were no rules on how they were to do so. Flashing behind Neji, Naruto gave an aerial roundhouse kick to Neji's head, sending him face first into the ground. Before he blacked out from the sheer amount of pain, he heard Naruto say, "When caged birds grow wiser, they open the door with their beaks. They never give up because they want to fly again." Pecking Neji's downed form, Genma saw that the boy was out cold. Standing up, he declared Neji unconscious. "The winner is Naruto Uzumaki," he shouted. As Naruto raised his hand proudly at his victory, the wind picked up. When it died down, Naruto scowled. The runt was 2 hours late and he just shows up like he owns the place. What a moron. Sasuke looked around with a smirk, clearly believing he would still get his match. Kakashi did his signature eye smile. "Yo. Are we late?" he said. Naruto let loose his killing intent, making Kakashi sweat. What do you think of Haddock? Naruto said, as he spoke Kakashi's last name with enough venom to make the snake boss Manda whistle with pride. Yep. They were late. Thanks for watching my video. See you next time, till then sayonara.